The F1 World Champion for 2022 is Max Verstappen. We would have rather that this news had been made at the end of the season rather than with a few rounds remaining, but it is what it is. Verstappen has dominated the 2022 season, shattering several records along the road and expressing himself in a strong manner in the first year of the new rules. Is it the vehicle? Yeah, Red Bull created a piece of equipment that was just unbeatable for the rest of the field. But does the driver also benefit from it? Perez wasn't able to adapt as well as Verstappen, despite having essentially the same vehicle and the same improvements, despite being a genuine danger to Verstappen in the opening few races. However, Verstappen has once more established himself as Red Bull's best driver, and he tells the tale of how he won the 2022 World Championship twice in a row. Verstappen has a lot to show to the critics following a divisive season in 2021. The majority of F1 fans believed that the way Abu Dhabi concluded gave Verstappen, the 2021 champion, was a sort of gift. However, the Dutchman carried a heavy load, and the season started out quite difficult for him as well. New rules were implemented for the 2022 season, which was perhaps the largest change to the F1 sport in recent memory. 18-inch tires have been utilized instead of the 13-inch tires that the F1 cars used in 2021. Which is a significant increase in size. The biggest issue was getting to the vehicle, which Red Bull has urgently tried to maintain inside the parameters of a minimum weight of 798 kilos. The whole bodywork had to alter. The Barcelona and Bahrain testing revealed that the season was always going to be highly fascinating, or should we say, rough. The aerodynamic phenomenon, called porpoising, has emerged as the largest obstacle for F1 teams to overcome as a result of the new regulations. Because of this and other factors, Mercedes had a lot of difficulties, and it was clear from far away that Hamilton wouldn't pose a danger to Verstappen in the 2022 season. However, Ferrari was the team to beat in the opening few races as the Maranello squad got off to a great start and brought home the first Drivers' Championship since Kimi Räikkönen claimed the crown for the Italian company in 2007. Leclerc and Ferrari got off to a good start, and the fact that both Red Bull cars retired in Bahrain, while Ferrari finished 1-2, tells us a lot about the course of this season. Verstappen won the second race in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, where he and Leclerc engaged in a similar skill-based duel as they did in Bahrain. However, the team missed a number of races at the beginning of the season since they, like Perez, had to cope with mechanical concerns during the first race. Verstappen settled into a routine after winning the second race, since it was clear that Leclerc would be the man to beat until the conclusion of the season, and that we would witness a genuine skill showdown between these two drivers. Verstappen's season, though, suffered a severe setback at the third race in Australia. Despite Leclerc having the quickest lap, he had to withdraw the vehicle because of a fuel pump issue. Verstappen was clearly not close to overtaking Leclerc in Australia. Yet, the Monegasque increased his lead from 8 to 26 points, giving him a 46-point edge over Verstappen at this point in the season. After 3 races, it was clear that Verstappen would have trouble defending his title because even Perez was ahead of the Dutch driver. But he had no idea that Ferrari would struggle in future races due to terrible luck. Leclerc won the 4th race of the season in Italy after spinning out when attempting to pass while running on intermediate tires, which cost him a few positions and dropped him to P6. Perez finished second, and the championship took a sharp turn. The subsequent races in Miami demonstrated a significant advantage Red Bull held over the other teams, and that is straight-line speed. Verstappen was able to achieve yet another victory because the Austrian team was quicker at the straightaways part of the course, where speeds ranged from 20 to 30 kilometers per hour. Leclerc, meanwhile, was considerably faster in Barcelona. Unfortunately, his engine had dependability problems. He left, which increased the advantage even further. This is where it all began, and Leclerc suffered once more in the Monaco Grand Prix that followed. However, this time, it wasn't the engine's dependability that caused him to lose 3 positions in the pit stop, but rather his team's strategies. The Maranello crew was able to provide 2 victories to the toughest rivals despite Red Bull's poor performance in both of these races, as compared to Ferrari. The Italian team's dread came true at the next showcase in Baku. After Perez passed Leclerc at the start of the race, it looked like we were in for an intriguing race, but Red Bull ultimately prevailed. Pit stops were going to be important in this situation. but owing to hydraulic problems and turbocharger failure, both Ferrari cars were withdrawn. This was the third competition of the year, following those in Emilia-Romagna and Barcelona, when Red Bull once again finished first and second. Because Perez was just 15 points behind Verstappen coming into the Barcelona Grand Prix, following the Mexican's victory in Monaco at this juncture. Perez was also seen to be a championship candidate, but the Mexican had no idea that his teammates' utter domination would make winning the title a faraway ambition for him in the next era. Leclerc was becoming increasingly irate at this point, since his car wasn't functioning as it should. Verstappen, who witnessed his major adversary using a new engine in Canada, the 9th race of the year, thought this was all excellent and warmly welcomed it. Verstappen took the victory in this race after starting from first place, and Leclerc finished 5th after moving up from position 20 on the grid. The margin grew, although Leclerc was able to reduce some of Verstappen's lead in the following 2 races in Austria and Silverstone. Leclerc, though, gave the Maranello team a chance to win at Silverstone, but the obstinate team ran a race to reduce their losses and placed 7th. However, the Italian team mishandled its strategy once more and had to settle for a P4 finish. Leclerc won the Austrian Grand Prix for the first time since the Australian Grand Prix, where time management proved to be the key to victory. Because of this, Leclerc defeated Verstappen, and just when we began to believe that the upcoming season would be intriguing, the French GB incident occurred. Verstappen won the race once more when Leclerc spun into the barriers. The margin over Leclerc had grown to 63 points, while the margin over Sergio Perez, a teammate, was now 70 points. Verstappen had the title in his hands pretty much from this moment forward. The fact that he took victories in events, like the one in Hungary, where Leclerc began in second place and Verstappen at P10, as well as events like the Spa Grand Prix, where the Dutch driver began from P14 and claimed the lead on lap 12, only served to highlight the fact that the Dutchman had the most effective vehicle and the greatest ability to prevail for the balance of the season. Verstappen enjoyed a winning streak of 5 races previous to the Singapore Grand Prix, but it came to an end here after a poor qualifying session, and a lockup when attempting to pass Norris caused him to enter the pits only moments after leaving them. Nevertheless, he started 7th and won the Monza Grand Prix, securing another victory for himself during his championship-winning campaign. Max Verstappen has a second chance to win the title in a race in Japan after failing to do so in Singapore. Verstappen got off to a strong start in qualifying, clocking the quickest time in Q1 but 1:32.00. Verstappen once more recorded a strong time of 12:30.46 in Q2. Just Perez and Alonso were quicker. Verstappen finished 3rd in the second quarter. A noteworthy exchange between Norris and Verstappen occurred in Q3. Verstappen seemed to lose control of his Red Bull during the lap as both drivers left the pit lane while warming up the tires. At that very moment, Norris approached quickly, causing him to swerve into the grass to escape a collision. Verstappen won the opening lap of Q3 and secured pole position. He continued to lead Leclerc by only 0.1 seconds. Sergio scored a P4, while Carlos received a P3. Theoretically, if Verstappen manages to outscore competitor Leclerc by 8 points at the Suzuka track, he might win the race. He needed to win the race and complete the quickest lap to earn an additional point. Verstappen began on pole position and Leclerc in second place as the race got underway on the sopping wet Suzuka track. Verstappen was dead to brake later in the turn, but Leclerc was able to stay next to him on the outside, giving him an edge in the following round and maintaining the lead. Racing was immediately obvious to be nearly impossible due to the odd weather. The first vehicle, driven by Carlos Sainz, crashed shortly after the drivers could scarcely see anything. Salvage work was done after that, and soon the alarm was raised. Heavy rain forced the cancellation of the event. After the race was stopped, Pierre Gasly was involved in an amazing occurrence. A tractor sped straight by his car on the track not long after the race was stopped. He was still traveling at a speed of about 200 kilometers per hour at the time and had very bad vision. Gasly was enraged at the FIA and perplexed as to how this could have happened. The FIA disagreed, claiming that Gasly had disregarded the warning sign. The tragedy will receive a lot of attention in the following days. This incident had a somber undertone because Jules Bianchi, the driver of the Mauricio, experienced a similar catastrophe in 2014. He died 6 months after slipping beneath a rescue vehicle at the Suzuka circuit. Verstappen was in the lead when the race began after roughly 2 hours behind the safety car. There were still 45 minutes left in the competition. Verstappen finished the race with a flawless drive. Leclerc was only able to maintain his proximity to Verstappen at the start of the race. As a result, he won by over 30 seconds over the rest of the field. At the finish, Leclerc and Perez, who were battling for position 2, had another altercation. Perez crossed the finish line first, followed by Leclerc, who had slipped off the track and rocketed back onto it in his line. But shortly before the finish line, the FIA penalized Leclerc for 5 seconds. As a result, he slipped to P3, while Perez advanced to P2. Since the maximum number of points cannot be awarded when a race is stopped for an extended period of time by rain, it was long believed that Verstappen had failed to win the championship. However, it turned out that there was another version of the rulebook in which maximum points could be awarded. Even inside Team Red Bull, there was a lot of misunderstanding. But Verstappen ultimately won the World Championship in Japan, when Leclerc plummeted to P3 as a result of his 5-second penalty. Although it may not have been the best possible manner for Max to win the championship, he completely dominated this season. Max was recognized. Verstappen has had a successful season for the 2nd year in a row, and the fact that he has won the majority of races this time around is evidence of Red Bull's ability to comprehend the technical challenges the new cars had to face. The primary one was proposing, and Red Bull was probably the only vehicle out there that did not experience it at all. As a result, their vehicles were able to provide far more stable driving environments for the drivers. Verstappen won the championship with a few races remaining. So whether you like it or not, although it is boring for fans to see seasons like this, it is what it is, and we are here to see it. What are your thoughts on Verstappen's 2022 season? Do you believe the driver has a significant impact, or do you believe it's simply the car? Tell us in the comments section below.